as we've been talking about, the New York Knicks are just one game away from their first NBA title in more than 50 years. The team has a storied history in New York, of course, which includes the official name, the New York Knickerbockers. David and Lisa spoke with Bloomberg's Randall Williams and Justin Fox as the city prepares to perhaps add another page. Perhaps. We're couching it. We're not going to jinx it. Perhaps. All right. Take a listen.
Randall, we'll start with you. So the Knicks lead the series 3-1. That last game was a nail biter. Like, I get goosebumps, okay? You were there in the middle of all the action. So explain, like, the feeling, the excitement that was there. How do you describe it?
Now, imagine you just put a mini earthquake in Madison Square Garden. It was easily the most electrifying arena and atmosphere that I've ever been in terms of an NBA game. I mean, the concourse that I was sitting on was literally rocking up and down. And so it was amazing. At one point, I was saying, like, I've been rooting for a good story. And I think the best story is that the series ends in 6 at Madison Square Garden, because there hasn't been a party like if the Knicks won in 6 and the party started at Madison Square Garden. I don't know if that's going to happen anymore.
Talk a bit about, if you would, kind of why the prospect of this championship is having such a big impact on the city itself. There are pro teams here that have won, yes, many more championships than the Knicks have. But why at this moment does it seem like there is such critical mass, so much excitement surrounding this?
Well, I think if you think about New York, the New York sports landscape, baseball and basketball dominate history, even outside of the professional leagues. The culture of it in New York is massive. And basketball really has nothing to show for it from the professional level since 1973. My dad was 5 years old back then, you know what I mean? And so you think about when the last time the Knicks were even on that stage, it was 1999. That's more than a quarter century ago. And so now that they're on this stage and they're facing not just anybody, it's the guy that has been dubbed the future face of the league, a global phenomenon, a global superstar in Victor Wembanyama. And they're basically they're bullying him in some aspect. And Victor has played some games on the court as well, some mind games that we saw early in Game 4 that looked like they were going to have large ramifications on the game. The Knicks battled back and eventually won that game, and is probably going to be one of the all-time great and all-time memorable NBA Finals games ever.
So what would be the one thing that would stand in the way of them winning a championship?
Well, it's very interesting. If you look at all 4 games, the Spurs very easily could be up 3-1-2. In Game 2, Victor Wembanyama has a chance to end the game on 2 separate occasions. He throws the ball off his teammate's back, and then he misses the game-winning jump shot. In Game 1, it was 90. I want to say it was 94-95 or something around that, and then Jalen Brunson hits a 3, 97-95. The Knicks go on to win it, and then of course we have yesterday's game, on Game 4, where they're up 29 and they lose that game. So the Spurs are very competitive, and they definitely can string together a winning streak to end this. But they haven't beat the Knicks twice, and they've been beaten on their home court twice. So the 2 of the last 3 remaining games are in San Antonio. That is in their favor, but who knows how many Knicks fans are going to buy tickets and fly all the way there just so they can root their team on.
Justin, let me bring you in here. First of all, you're not a Knicks fan. You are today. We're all Knicks fans.
I mean, I'm definitely rooting for them in this series. I grew up a Warriors fan.
You're a Warriors fan.
So
you've written this column, and the kicker of the piece is an ASAP Rocky line. He's talking to a reporter, and he says, "I'm from New York. I ain't no Knicks fan. I'm a Knick." You've looked into the history of Knickerbocker. It goes back to 1809. Explain how we got here and what this term has connoted through the years.
Yeah, and first of all, he's right. I mean, he's from New York. He's a Knick.
Yes.
And the origin of it is Washington Irving, the guy also behind the legend of Sleepy Hollow and Rip Van Winkle. He was trying to promote, he wrote this book. It was his first big success. It was called The History of New York from the beginning of the world until the end of the Dutch dynasty. And he decided to write it in the voice of this old guy of Dutch descent, whom he gave the name Diedrich Knickerbocker. And so the name first appeared in the media with this notice on the bottom of page 3 of the 4-page New York Post. It was called the New York Evening Post then, but it's the same paper, same lineage, founded by Alexander Hamilton and all. And it said, that there was this old guy named Knickerbocker had been staying in a hotel in the city and had gone missing. And this turned out there were then several more, like there was a sighting of him up in the Bronx. And then the owner of the hotel was saying, well, if he doesn't show up, he left this book here, I'm going to publish it. to make money off this whole thing. So, and that, book was a big success, really set off Irving's literary career. He'd done some smaller things before then. And then in this just sort of amazing thing, Knickerbocker just became this term in New York City.
How and why? How and why? Why did it stick?
Well, I mean, I guess the idea, it's supposed to represent Dutch New York, but there were no Dutch New Yorkers named Knickerbocker.
Okay.
There was this family upstate north of Albany, and I don't even know how to pronounce the town, Skagdecoke or
we won't
something.
make you. All right.
Or Skagdecoke. And their name was Knickerbocker or Knickerbocker or something. And Irving, he later became friends with Herman Knickerbocker, was a congressman who had been elected right before the book came out. But I think he just chose the name because it had a little Dutchness to it, but it wasn't like one of the names everybody knew. And I think it's just a funny word. It's amusing. And so it was in the 19th century, and there's a whole book about sort of the evolution of the term and how it was used by a historian, Elizabeth Bradley, came out about 16 or 17 years ago. And I read it for the first time last weekend. But it's like, on one hand, it was supposed to refer to Old Dutch New York, but pretty quickly people just started using it as all-purpose New York name and then nickname. Like, there was a baseball team in the 1850s, the Knickerbocker Baseball Club, one of the first baseball teams. And then in the 1870s, editorial cartoonists started using Father Knickerbocker in his tricorn hat as sort of the Uncle Sam of New York, pushing for good government and consolidation of the city.
Wild.
And all. And so when the Knicks, when they were sitting around the table trying to decide what are we going to call this new professional basketball team, apparently they all, like the 5 or 6 people in the room, all put names in a hat, and the majority of them said Knickerbocker.
How about that?
So I've been a diehard Knicks fan, and I did not know this story, and I was just amazed by it. But the thing that, do you think the Knicks, I mean, you see sports teams kind of change names every once in a while, that happens. Do you think this name, because of the history of it, is it going to stick around, like, for the
they'll always be the
long
Knicks.
haul?
Yeah, I mean,
It's
it's as
bound for the
long as they're
long
a team, they're going to be the Knicks. I mean, it's just such a great name, especially in the short version works. But if they ever want to go back to being the Knickerbockers,
That's never going to happen.
I guess the other thing is just that Wemby is clearly this new global force, and it's funny, there are actually more people on the Spurs who were born in New York City than, I don't know if there are any on the Knicks, but Karl Anthony Towns is definitely from the metro area, and Jalen Brunson has links going back. But I can just totally see Karl Anthony Towns' father, Knickerbocker, wearing the hat and going around New York, do this. So I'm hoping that's in his future.
Randall, I'll go to you lastly just on sort of what the championship has meant for New York. I was talking with somebody here who said, look, this is an example of, like, basketball is the city's game. Again, there have been championships. The Yankees have won a lot of championships, but fundamentally, New York's game is basketball. Do you agree with that? So what does this mean kind of culturally for the city to have the Knicks where they're at?
I think that, yes, I think that basketball is it right now because of the stars that are on the team. Jalen Brunson is sort of the perfect New York superstar. He's very humble, he's soft-spoken, but when he's on the court, he is a force of nature. And Karl Anthony Towns is also a force of nature. And then they have these role players that might not be top 50 players in the NBA, but they each play their role for their team. And then they have Mike Brown, who utilizes them in a perfect manner. So it really feels like this is a New York team unlike any other. The Yankees spend a lot of money on free agents and building this team, and they've fallen short a lot. I mean, we saw the Yankees-Dodgers series a couple years ago in which they lost, and then I believe the last World Series championship was in 2009. So it's been a while for the Yankees. I'm sure they could electrify the city in a similar tone, but the Knicks haven't won since 1973, and when a city is starved of a championship for that long, it's going to be something unlike we've ever seen before.
We were talking before, and I asked you, who was your favorite team? You had the best response.
My response is that I'm rooting for a good story. And in a best-case scenario, I would like the Knicks to win in 6 at Madison Square Garden on a potential Game 6 for on Tuesday, or a Game 7 in which it's anybody's game because of the fact that it's Game 7. Who doesn't love a Game 7? And I think if the party starts in Madison Square Garden on Tuesday, the city is going to be absolutely insane. I don't even think there's going to be anybody in this office on Tuesday or Wednesday if that is the case. So I'm excited, and I think we all should be too.